Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity news for middle market companies, their investors, and executive teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Monday, November 18th, 2024, and we're going to do a little prognostication today based on news of a leadership shakeup at CISA that broke late last week. So let's dive right in. Again, news broke late last week that the director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, here in the U.S., Jen Easterly, and her deputy director, Nitin Natarajan, will depart on Inauguration Day, January 2025. A quick primer for both of Easterly and CISA. She's only the second director of this agency, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security here in the U.S., and was actually signed into law by President Donald Trump as part of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Act of 2018. Easterly was confirmed by the Senate in July of 2021 after the previous director, Chris Krebs, was fired by tweet and has served in that role since then. Easterly, for her bio, is a West Point graduate who served 20 years in the U.S. Army, including roles as an intelligence officer and leader, combat deployments, and spending time at both the National Security Agency and in establishing the U.S. Cyber Command and leading there, as well as roles on the National Security Council during her time. I think her departure marks a significant inflection point for this agency, something that was really well covered, I think, in a weekend article from Wired Magazine and Eric Geller. In short, I think the takeaway here is that changes are coming, including the focus of this organization away from supporting and defining regulations for critical infrastructure and towards a more external, China-focused offensive orientation. Even as lawmakers continue to struggle with these rapidly changing needs, we're seeing the agency feel a little bit stuck in the middle. Virginia Senator Mark Warner continued over the weekend to advocate for additional cyber breach reporting, faster, in fact, regulations that now appear unlikely to happen because they were being developed jointly with CISA. So for those of us here in the middle market, I think the takeaway is this. To a larger extent than has been the case, you're going to be on your own moving forward. The resources and focus that CISA has provided over the last 5 or 6 years just aren't going to be there on the cyber front for the next 5 or 6 years. This means tools, training, and threat intelligence, all of which you'll need to find your own suitable replacements for. I think, unfortunately, this is going to put a squeeze on the middle market and down right into the smaller spaces, leaving a lot of room for ransomware and other commodity threats to thrive as focus of this agency and others moves upstream to nation-state incursions like China's Salt Typhoon and others, which we have covered in depth on this show. I know that building a cyber capability is not high on the list for a lot of leadership teams for companies in the middle market, but I think the risks of the impact of cyber events are just too high to do nothing about as we lose CISA's input. Cyber is really one of the few domains that can bring an entire organization down in a matter of minutes and keep them down for weeks on end. And so for that reason, and frankly, many others, including supporting your own growth path or exit plans, there's going to be a need to focus on managing cyber risk and building the capability to manage that cyber risk internally over the next 5 or 6 years. So what exactly this means for each of us in this space is going to depend, of course, on our business, on our tech stack, on our growth ambitions, and a range of other variables. But the one thing that we'll all be facing together is an increasingly chaotic world in this digital space, one where threats continue to evolve faster than our defenses, and now without the help of an organization like CISA, or at least without as much help as we have gotten. So where does that leave us? Well, your job now is to get a running start. Understand what you have in place. Understand what you need to meet the challenge presented by these threats, and then put in place plans to build, buy, or partner on the capabilities that you will need coming into 2025 and looking beyond, because there is no cavalry coming anytime soon. It is now, I think, up to each of us to make this play. From a fundraising perspective, still in the smaller numbers range, coming in at $4.2 billion in newly committed capital last week, but I did see that was spread over about a dozen fund announcements with various sizes and focuses. Again, the larger players have all secured a sizable amount of new money for the year, nearly $750 billion by my tally so far in 2024. So I don't know how many more massive announcements we're going to see for the rest of the quarter or the rest of the year. Certainly there will be some that squeak out this kind of end of year deadline. The calendar end deadline always drives a little bit of action, but the better part of $1 trillion of new funding for the year certainly seems like a sizable chunk already. With that, a reminder that you can find links to all of the articles we covered in the comments section below. You can find back issues and written transcripts of these videos at intentionalcyber.com, and we will see you next week for another edition of the Intentional Brief.